The Packers get a double dose of good news ahead of the New Orleans Saints game that I will talk about in this video. But first, let me bring you up to speed with what is coming out of Green Bay on the injury front. Not great news, but also not surprising news to hear that our first round draft pick, Jordan Morgan, who we recently saw walking around in an arm sling, has officially been ruled out for the remainder of the season. I'm sure very disappointing news for Jordan Morgan and the Packer organization. There's a lot of high expectations built around this first round draft pick out of Arizona. Us Packer fans really wanted to see what he was capable of doing and bringing to this offensive line. What does this mean for the Packers? Well, it means that the Packers won't be getting back a depth piece they were hoping to ahead of the playoffs. And really, it also means that not a lot is going to change. Again, he was only in on 186 snaps this season. So the Packers are going to have to turn to who they've turned to all season long: Andre Dillard, Kadeem Tolfert, Travis Glover, and Jacob Monk. Okay, so that is the latest coming out of our O-line news. So when we start talking about the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers and these two teams meeting up, they originally met up back in 1968. They've met up a total of 28 times. The Packers have won 18 of those meetings. So the Packers clearly have the upper hand in this matchup. However, the Packers are staring at a team that has been completely riddled with injuries. The last time we said that was against the Detroit Lions and the Packers don't win that game. This is going to be a different story because this New Orleans Saints team is not that great. They find themselves sitting third in the NFC South, behind Tampa Bay, behind Atlanta, and just ahead of Carolina with a 5-9 record. So part of the good news for the Packers is that they are going to be playing a team that is incredibly injured. Okay, so you've got Derek Carr, their starting quarterback, is going to be out for the game, and their backup slash tight end hybrid, Taysom Hill, is going to be out for this game as well, along with their two wideouts, their stud wideouts in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and then probably Elvin Kamara as well. And I know I've seen some articles that have said, watch out for this Saints defense, though, because they're pretty stingy. And in this Packer article, it says the Saints defense is no joke. And it's not just the 8 sacks last week. Everyone's talking about the Commanders' only touchdowns came when they started drives in near midfield. Washington couldn't run the ball, forcing the quarterback, Jane Daniels, to be the Commanders' leading rusher. New Orleans hasn't allowed more than 23 points in a game since the Commanders, or since the calendar year of November. Okay, so here's my take on that. I'm not worried about it. I think Jeff Hafley, when I hear the injuries to their offense, I think Jeff Hafley is going to have an absolute heyday when it comes to defensive schemes. And we're going to see a lot of pressure. We're going to see hopefully a lot of takeaways on the defensive side of the ball. But when we start talking about New Orleans defense, the Packers are playing a decent defense. But here's the thing: New Orleans run defensive grade is a 37.5 since week 9. So they haven't been playing great. So what does that mean for the Packers? Well, it means that Josh Jacobs, who's been an absolute stud for us, and the Green Bay Packers offensive line. Okay, so this Green Bay Packer offensive line, they scored probably coming off of one of their best games against Seattle. They scored a run blocking grade of an 81.8 against Seattle, which means that the Packers, if they can open up the run game and they can continue playing this well as an offensive line unit, that means the Packers are going to be imposing their will and doing whatever they want on offense, which is great news, especially ahead of the playoffs. So Josh Jacobs, he leads the league in yak yards after contact with 974. He also leads the league in forced missed tackles, which he's got 65 of them. New Orleans ranks 15th in missed tackles this season. So this is going to be an absolute recipe for just the Packers having a heyday on offense and defense, in my opinion. And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, this could be a game that the Packers really, if they're not careful, they could look past this game and this could be a tight game. I don't see that happening for the Packers. When you start talking about this New Orleans Saints defense as well, speaking of just pressure and all of that, let's talk about Jordan Love and just how good this guy has been. It says right here that since week 11, Jordan Love ranks third among quarterbacks in completion percentage with 63, second in yards per attempt at 9.6, fourth in pressure to sack percentage at 7.7, which means when the defense is providing some pressure, this dude isn't flustered at all, and second in passer rating at 116.3, just behind Josh Allen when he's under pressure. So the Packers, again, the only strength that New Orleans has is going to be their defense. The Packers really having a lot of success when given pressure. Jordan Love has a lot of success. The Packers run game has a ton of success. But this is great news for the Packers. Leave your comments, and as always, go Pack Go.